Now to our special report, Life After Death. News 4 is diving into the amazing stories of people who say they've had these near-death experiences.
Well, that's the case for one man whose world was turned upside down after being struck by lightning. Tonight, in a special report, Luke Moretti introduces us to a man whose near-death experience became music to his ears.
I really believed at the time that the only reason I was here was because of the music.
Tony Cicoria could never have imagined an absolute compulsion to play classical piano.
If I tried to ignore it, it would play in my head when I was at work or when I was trying to do something else.
Cicoria's seemingly strange odyssey begins unexpectedly in the summer of 1994. Without warning, he's struck by lightning while near a payphone attached to a building.
Actually, it hit me right in the corner of the mouth. I had a small burn on the corner of my mouth and on the inside of my left ankle where it came out.
Cicoria remembers moving backwards, then forwards, and then seeing himself on the ground.
I was absolutely shocked. And I remember thinking, oh, shit, I'm dead.
You're dead?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a shock. It was like somebody had moved a veil and suddenly I was someplace else.
As Cicoria tells it, there was no point in sticking around, so he starts walking up the stairs of the building where his family is located.
And I noticed that my legs were starting to dissolve. And that was a bit disconcerting. And as I got to the top of the stairs, I had lost all form. And I was just a big ball of energy.
Cicoria says he moves through a wall, sees his wife and a bunch of kids around her. Suddenly, he finds himself outside of the building, immersed in what he calls a lake of pure positive energy.
It was like you were swimming underwater through a crystal clear stream and the light was passing through and it was sparkly.
Cicoria felt as though he was going someplace with speed and direction. He saw the high points of his life flash by. The greatest thing, he says, that could ever happen to anyone.
Where do you think you were? And what was that energy?
Yeah. I don't know where I was. My speculation is that I had crossed into a different dimension. I felt like that force that I felt of absolute love and absolute peace that pervaded everything was my thought of what God was.
God.
Yeah.
But it would not last. Cicoria says as fast as the snap of a finger, he was back in his body feeling intense pain.
I remember being pissed. I was, in my head, I'm calling out to anybody who'll listen, please don't make me go back.
Cicoria says it took several minutes before he woke up. He remembers lying there, wanting to thank the person who saved him by performing CPR.
I looked at her and I said, it's okay, I'm a doctor. And she laughed and said, you weren't a minute ago.
You see, it's Dr. Tony Cicoria, a well-known and respected orthopedic surgeon who lives in Oneonta, about a 4-hour drive east of Buffalo.
If they take it, it'll go, but it hurts like hell.
Cicoria says he was quiet about his near-death experience for a number of years.
If somebody wanted to say, well, he's crazy, you should take his license away, well, that could happen too.
That's never happened to you?
No.
After the experience, Cicoria returned to work, but was struggling for answers.
Why did this happen? What did it mean? Why has there been no consequence to it?
In the weeks that followed, he felt a burning desire to hear classical piano. Then came a vivid dream where he's on stage in a concert hall playing the piano.
I'm watching what I'm doing and I'm listening to the music, and suddenly I realized that this is not someone else's music, this is mine.
Cicoria's life takes another strange turn. Despite not being able to read, write, or play, he gets access to a piano and begins teaching himself.
Whenever I sat down at the piano to try to teach myself, the music would start playing in my head exactly the way it was in the dream.
Eventually, he gets an instructor and starts piecing together the notes. By 2007, Sikoria's Lightning Sonata takes on a life of its own when he begins performing the piece in public.
Is it fair to say that you were somewhat possessed by this music and this?
Oh, I was absolutely.
It consumed you, right?
If you could compare it to a religious zealot, I was that for the music. It had taken over part of my life.
You're a man of medicine, right?
Yes.
How do you explain this with your scientific background?
That has been a struggle for me because, you know, I'm in medicine. I also have a PhD in physiology and cellular biophysics. So I've been on the hard line of research for many years. And all of a sudden something happens that turns what I knew upside down.
Tony Sikoria believes there's no real explanation on a neurobiological basis to explain some of these things.